I'm here today to share with you all a recorded version of our counterintelligence awareness presentation for new employee orientation. So why don't we dive right into the content? So counterintelligence, simply stated, counterintelligence is really about identifying intelligence threats facing our company and developing mitigation strategies to address those threats. This matters to all of us because as Lockheed Martin employees, we're all targets for intelligence collection. Intelligence threats can be broken up into two different buckets. So on one side, we have our external threats. This includes nation-state intelligence services and competitors, both foreign and domestic. I'm not going to touch much on terrorist groups, extreme activist organizations, or criminal enterprises, but just know that there are additional categories of external threats targeting our information for nefarious purposes. So that's external. In the other bucket, we have the threat internal to the company, and in government and industry, we call that the insider threat. I'll get more into that in a slide or two. So what are they after? The last bullet is really the most important one, just about everything not publicly available. Keep in mind that while some of this stuff may not seem overly exciting, a lot of this information can be pieced together to create a much bigger picture of our programs and our technologies. One thing you don't see on the slide is the word classified, and the reason I do that is because there's a common misconception that if we don't have a security clearance or if we're not read into the most exciting programs that we have here at Lockheed Martin, then we're sort of relieved of being a target for intelligence collection, and it's very simply not the case. Again, by virtue of our status as Lockheed Martin employees, we're all targets for intelligence collection. So I won't go through all of these little darts here on this slide because we're really limited on time, but this slide gives you an idea of some of the methods and tactics that our adversaries in the intelligence arena might utilize to target us for collections or for recruitment. One that I do like to take the time to touch on is social media. In the world of intelligence collection, social media can represent a significant potential vulnerability. Yet our company is a massive proponent of social media. So what should our employees do? There are two things that we can all do as employees to reduce our susceptibility to targeting and intelligence collection on social media platforms. The first is utilization of privacy and security settings. Lock your pages down. In this day and age, there's no reason to have any degree of personal information available for the open internet. The second is connecting only with people you actually know. All the privacy and security settings in the world aren't going to do much good if you accept connection requests from just about anyone. By employing these two very simple measures, we can all find a better balance of reaping the benefits of social media without making ourselves unnecessarily vulnerable. So I mentioned the insider threat briefly in the beginning. The insider is potentially a Lockheed Martin employee who uses his or her legitimate access to our facilities and our information for illegitimate purposes. Because of this, the insider is the most difficult to detect and the most potentially damaging to a company like ours or to a government agency. So why am I telling you this? As employees, we're all sensors for insider threat activity. You can see some common pre-event behavioral indicators on the screen, but the most important thing to remember is to trust your instincts. I think it's important to point out to our employees that many of the concerning behaviors that precede acts of traditional insider threat activity, so again, we're talking economic espionage, industrial espionage, theft of trade secrets, mirror those for someone who might be considering an act of workplace violence or suicide. Your job as an employee is not to diagnose the reason behind concerning behaviors, but rather to recognize them and bring them to someone's attention. If an employee has been a certain way for as long as you've known him or her, and suddenly their demeanor shifts or their outward appearance is starting to look more and more disheveled, we look to you to act. Notify your manager, notify security, give us the opportunity to look into it and rule out a concern. This next slide just shows some of the motivations behind insider threat activity that you might notice in your daily interactions in the workplace. As you can see from the slide, there's no one reason why people make the decision to cross the line and engage in insider threat activity. but luckily, many of these motivators result in observable workplace behaviors. I know as we go through this content, many people hear about insider threat activity and think to themselves that they would never do such a thing. Unfortunately, oftentimes employees will engage in activity that they may not realize is insider threat activity. We see this a lot with employees who download company information to personal devices or email company information to their personal accounts, assuming that since they've worked on the project for so long, it actually belongs to them. Please understand that there are policies that govern how we must handle and safeguard company information, and there are often severe consequences when those policies aren't followed. I encourage you all to familiarize yourself with those policies and make informed, responsible decisions when it comes to handling company information. This last slide is an emphatic thank you to you all. There's no way that my office could be successful in our mission without the collaboration with our employee force. So thank you for taking an active role in safeguarding our information, our facilities, and our fellow employees. I wish you the best of luck with your employment at Lockheed Martin. Thank you.